I never enjoyed visiting my Aunt Sofia's house. Honestly, I wasn't fond of her either. She was a peculiar Bible-thumping Jesus enthusiast, and she always hovered over me like a vulture. But what truly unnerved me was her house. It was an ancient, dilapidated structure filled with bizarre religious artwork. While the typical religious paintings adorned the walls, it was the statues that made me uneasy. Scattered all over the place, these giant, unsettling figures of saints and angels turned the tiny house into a claustrophobic maze. I often wondered where Aunt Sofia got the money for these sculptures. In every other aspect, it seemed like she lived a life of vow of poverty. Little money was spent on herself or her toddler son, Matteo, who was just as peculiar as his mother. Their hauntingly similar eyes and uncomfortable silence added to the eerie atmosphere. The first time I babysat Matteo, he never cried or fussed like normal babies. It should have been a relief, but his constant watchfulness made me uneasy. My mother insisted there was no medical reason for his demeanor, but I couldn't help but wonder if living with my aunt, who had never dated or married, had influenced him. One day, my aunt insisted on leaving Matteo with me while she attended Saturday Mass. I reluctantly agreed, and as we drove to her house, the clean-swept sidewalks transformed into chain-link fences and graffiti-covered walls. It was like entering a different world. Upon arriving, I was greeted by Aunt Sofia in her distinctive Mexican accent, and she hurriedly informed me that Matteo was already asleep. My only instructions were to give him his bottle if he woke up crying and to keep the TV volume down. Left alone in the dimly lit house, I turned on the lights and faced a 5-foot-tall statue of the Blessed Virgin directly in front of me. Startled, I couldn't shake the feeling that the statue's serene face held a hint of malevolence. Shaking off my irrational fear, I settled on the couch and decided to watch The X-Files. As I immersed myself in Mulder and Scully's adventures, Matteo's sudden blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. Rushing to his room, I found him crying in the dark. Despite my attempts to comfort him, he refused the bottle and continued sobbing. In a desperate search for a solution, I noticed an ominous concrete gargoyle in his room, seemingly appearing out of nowhere. With Matteo still crying, I answered a call from Aunt Sofia, only to discover that she had never placed any such statue in his room. Her urgent whispers revealed that the creature was not a statue but a demon. Panic set in as she implored me to leave the house immediately. As I moved towards the front door with Matteo in my arms, the lights went out and heavy footsteps approached. Something yanked me to the ground, and the last thing I remembered was Matteo being torn from my grasp. When I regained consciousness in the hospital, I tried to recount the terrifying events, but the doctors dismissed it as a product of head trauma. The statues, the gargoyle, and the demon were all deemed products of my confused mind. However, as I drifted into a haze induced by medication, I couldn't shake the feeling that some urban legends might indeed hold a shred of truth. Perhaps demons could disguise themselves as statues, and that house might be infested with them.